You've been correcting people wrong your entire life. And the worst part, the smarter you are, the more damage you've been leaving behind. Invisible, compounding, irreversible. Picture this. You catch a colleague using the wrong phrase in front of the entire room. The correction rises in your chest. Clean, fast, almost righteous. You could fix it in 4 words. So you do. And the meeting never recovers. There's a specific kind of intelligence most people never develop. Not the intelligence to know when someone is wrong, but the intelligence to fix it without them realizing it happened. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you a framework called the signal method. It's subtle, it's precise, and once you use it, you'll understand why silence can land harder than any correction you've ever delivered out loud. Here's a scene you already know. You're sitting in a meeting. Someone across the table, sharp person, capable person, says, "For all intensive purposes," and something in your brain snags, like a thread catching on a nail. You know the real phrase. You know they've got it wrong. The urge rises, clean, efficient, almost moral, to fix it, right here, right now, in front of everyone. So maybe you do. You frame it diplomatically, wrap it in a smile, call it helpful. Technically, you're correct. The phrase is wrong. The grammar is wrong. The evidence sits right there on the table. But watch what happens to the room. Watch what happens to them. The conversation doesn't improve. It stops. The energy shifts. The person you corrected goes quiet. Not thoughtful quiet. Defensive quiet. Now the meeting isn't about the idea. It's about the correction. You've replaced one small malfunction with a larger one, and you did it in front of witnesses. Here's what this pattern reveals. The problem was never the grammar. The problem was the delivery vehicle, and most people never think to separate the two. Which brings us to the real problem. Think about light for a second. If you shine a flashlight directly into someone's eyes to help them see better, you blind them. The intention was right. The tool was right. The aim destroyed the outcome. Now think about water. Water doesn't announce the crack. It doesn't spotlight the flaw in the stone. It fills it. Quietly, naturally, from the inside. That's the core of the signal method. The concept comes from signal correction in electronics. When a signal turns noisy, distorted, corrupted, engineers don't halt the entire transmission to announce the problem. They introduce a cleaner signal alongside the noise. What happens? The noise fades on its own. The system self-corrects. The information gets through. Nothing overheats. The signal method works identically in human communication. Instead of interrupting the conversation to flag an error, you introduce the correct version inside your next sentence, embedded in agreement, woven into your response, and let the other person's brain complete the correction itself. No spotlight, no ceremony, no damage. Here's the part nobody talks about. Here's where this gets uncomfortable, and where most advice on this completely misses. The reason people correct others publicly isn't really about the grammar. It's about something else, something most people won't admit, even to themselves. And once you see it, you can't unfeel it. I've watched this pattern long enough to see what lives underneath it. The urge to correct publicly, loudly, immediately, isn't about communication. It's about proof. Proof that you noticed. Proof that you know. Proof that you're operating at a higher frequency than the person who made the mistake. The correction stops being a tool and becomes a signal. But the signal you're sending isn't, "I want to help you." The signal is, "I'm above this, And here's the thing about that signal. It lands every time. The other person receives it with perfect accuracy, even when they can't articulate it, even when they smile and say, "Oh, good catch." Something beneath the surface of that exchange registers the transaction for exactly what it was. What correction is actually for, at its core, is better communication. Full stop. And if your method of correcting breaks the communication to fix the grammar, you've traded a small malfunction for a much worse one. The signal method operates at full power only when you strip the ego out completely. Now here's how this plays out in practice. Let me make this concrete. Your colleague says, "for all intensive purposes, in every presentation. Third one this month." The direct correction. You pull them aside, sticky note in hand, polite voice engaged. They feel the embarrassment settle into their face. They file you under threat. That association compounds. The signal method. You find a natural moment in the same conversation and say, "Right, and for all intents and purposes that data fully supports your point." No pause. No raised eyebrow. Just the clean version, embedded inside genuine agreement. Watch what happens. Often they repeat it back, already corrected, in their next sentence, without ever knowing the exchange occurred. The brain scans constantly for the right pattern. You gave it one. Same principle functions in text. Someone writes, "should have." You reply with, "should have," woven naturally into your response. Not underlined, not circled, just present. The noise fades, the signal wins, the relationship holds. This is where most people fail. Now, here's where people get this wrong. Because the signal method is subtle. Some people execute it with a performance attached. They use the correct word, but they decelerate slightly on it. They insert a half-beat of silence before it. The voice carries the faintest trace of emphasis. That's not the signal method. That's a public correction wearing a disguise. The other person still feels it. The sting is smaller. The transaction is identical. The second mistake, deploying it as a technique for quiet superiority. If you're using clean language so you can privately think, "They'll never know I corrected them," you've still made it about yourself. The outcome might look identical, but the energy underneath differs, and energy compounds across months of interactions in ways that eventually become undeniable. This operates at full power only when the goal is communication, not performance, not superiority, pure signal. And once you understand that, here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to run this week. Find one moment, just one, where the urge to correct someone's language out loud surfaces. Notice it. Don't judge it. Don't suppress it. Just observe it clearly. Then run the experiment. Respond naturally. Embed the correct version inside your reply. No ceremony. And then, this is the critical part. Watch the energy of the exchange. Notice what doesn't break. Notice what, quietly, gets fixed. You don't need to execute it perfectly. You need to do it once and pay attention. Because once you see the signal method function in real time, the old pattern becomes impossible to prefer. You can't unsee something that works better than everything you were doing before. Here's what I want you to carry out of this. 2 ways to be right exist. The way that proves you're right. Loud, efficient, technically accurate, and quietly corrosive over time. And the way that functions right, that moves the communication forward, keeps the relationship intact, and resolves the problem without leaving evidence there was a problem. The signal method isn't passivity. It's precision. It's the understanding that the most powerful corrections leave no mark, no wound, no memory. Just a cleaner signal running through the system. If frameworks like this are useful to you, subscribe. There's more where this came from. The loudest correction in the room fixes one word. The quiet one fixes the person. Most people never learn the difference. Most people never stop being loud enough to notice.